Hi, Dr. Jim Ewing here. Welcome to the ML Summit. I'm so excited to be here. First of all, I'd like to thank you for all that you do, and thanks for joining me. And also, thank you to Carol, Ton, and Katie for making this happen. What a summit. This is amazing. There's so much learning going on. And I have to honor you right in the middle of the summer. If that's when you're watching this, you're taking your time to learn how to position our multilingual learners. That's right. So regardless if you teach math or not, really what we want to talk about here is, how we can position our multilingual learners. And one way is calling them multilingual learners. So I'm so happy that this summit is making that stance. I'm writing a position paper for two national organizations, and we're using the same term, multilingual learners. I guess the abbreviation could be MLL. So it's really easy. We just change that E in ELLs to M and MLLs. And by doing that, we're positioning our students. But let me explain that a little bit more in an analogy. Are you right-handed or left-handed? Well, most of you watching this would be right-handed, but when I give teacher workshops, I'll ask that question, and I'll say, "What's it like to live in a right-handed world if you're left-handed?" And the left-handers will say, "Jim, it's little things like those notebooks. Those notebooks aren't made for me. I'm left-handed, and it's just so hard to write in those spiral notebooks." Another comment is, I have to be careful, Jim, where I sit because I'm left-handed. I don't want to bump elbows with the person next to me if they're right-handed. So if you're left-handed, you already know what it's like to live in a right-handed world. But if you're not, let's do a little exercise so you understand how it might be like to be a left-handed learner, and also to empathize with our English language learner. So here goes. I'm watching you. Everyone do this. Let's draw a picture in the air with our left hand of a house. Here goes. Remember the roof, a door, and throw in some windows. What was that like? Well, it was probably low risk, so it was okay. But what if we were to raise the stakes? What if we were to say from now on, you have to use your left hand? How would you feel then? How would you feel if we compared your work and put all your work up in the wall and compared your work with the left-handers? If you're left-handed, you'd probably love that. But if you're right-handed, you say, "But Jim, that's not fair. I've been using my right hand. I've got that talent that you're just ignoring." And you'd be right. And so that's why, and I think you know where I'm going with this, that's why it's so important not to call our students English language learners, because that's not our goal. Our goal is not for them to be learners of English. Our goal is for them to learn more than one language, to be multilingual, right? It's because they, by definition, they know at least one language, some more, and they're learning a second language. So just like if you were to learn, if you're right-handed and you wanted to learn how to draw a picture with your left hand, you would be called ambidextrous. So if you will, I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint now, and just reflect on why it's so important. Because another thing we'll be talking about, it's not enough for you to be convinced by using the term multilingual learner. How can you convince your colleagues, right? Because change needs to happen. So if you're convinced, take the next step and advocate for your for MLLs. And how can you convince your colleagues to do that? Because a lot of teachers are still using the term English language learners, and it's not positioning our students to be successful. Think about how you can do that as I pull up this PowerPoint. So thank you so much. Let's get started. If you have pen and paper, that's great for taking notes. Don't have to get everything down, but if you want to know, if you want the slides, just drop me an email, and I would love to share those with you. And so here's your visual. We talked about it before. The terms ELLs, Ls, that's like calling you a left-handed learner. If you're right-handed, you learn to use your left hand. Let's use the term multilingual learners. There's a strong push, and it makes sense to do so. There's also emergent bilinguals. You know, some are still using the term LEP, limited English proficiency, and that's just deficit language. Texas finally changed, and they're using the term emergent bilinguals now. The legislator just passed the bill, but I'm going to be using the term multilingual learners, and the abbreviation I'll use is MLLs. I've seen MLs as well. And so what's it like to learn a content, be it mathematics or any other subject, in another language? Does it matter? There's a myth that math is math and it doesn't matter. Pero quizás eso no es verdad. Entonces, ahora lo que voy a hacer es hablar un poco en español para que ustedes sepan cómo se sientan algunos estudiantes. Entonces, ¿quién me puede decir la raíz cuadrada de 144? ¿Algún voluntario? Ah, claro, 12, porque 12 por 12 son 144. Vamos a empezar con estos 4 problemas. ¿Algún voluntario para explicarlo? Fijarse en número 4. ¿Qué está preguntando en número 4? How'd you feel? I don't want you to click off. I want you to stay here, so I'm going to keep that short. But I'm a professor, and with my students, they can't leave. And sometimes I do that for about 20, 25 minutes. But we'll keep it short today. How'd you feel when I taught you in Spanish? And how could I have taught you better? How can we position our students? How could I have positioned you to be successful? So would you like school if it was taught like this? No. And so the first mindset, if you will, that we're going to be talking about is we need to position our MLLs for success. And we can do that by calling our students multilingual learners. So as I said, there are other names out there. And I actually, in my book, I actually use the term ELLs, because if I use the term multilingual learners, then people would say, I don't have any of those, I'm not buying the book. But inside, back then when I wrote it, I used the term emergent bilingual. But now, as I said, I prefer the term multilingual learners. And it's not enough for you to be convinced. We also want to consider how we can advocate for our multilingual learners. What's your takeaway so far? All learners, including multilingual learners, really benefit from reflecting. And so just take a little bit to write down something, maybe how you're going to advocate for multilingual learners, and then we'll get back to learning again. So were you able to solve the problems? Maybe not. I've done this before, and sometimes it's not just the language, because it's called the algorithm was different. So even if you understood me in Spanish, you might not have known what to do. And so the point here is we need to provide our students with access, right? I was asking you to divide. That's how they divide in most countries in South America and in Spain. And so that's what I was asking you to do. It's not that the way you were taught is better than this, it's just different. And so we need to be flexible. That's the idea. And so along with this, we need to provide access, but visual access is not enough. You had access here. I gave you a visual, but that wasn't enough. So visuals are not enough. We need our students to visualize themselves in our curriculum, right? So if you're doing problems like this, you're just going to get bored. And I didn't provide you access. So it's not on you, it's on me. I'm the one that didn't provide you access. This is a drawing. This is a sketch, sorry, by Claribel, who I've never met, but I really like it, in my book, Math for ELLs. And so what really, and Valentina Gonzalez talked about this in her presentation the other day, what really we want to do is ask ourselves if our students are visualizing themselves in our curriculum. That's authentic access. In the word problems we give our students, in the books that we're reading our students, are they visualizing themselves in our curriculum? Because if not, right, we're not being effective. So it's so important to remember that as well. If you will, follow me on YouTube, because as I said before, I realized that a lot of times when I give workshops, teachers would be convinced, But then you go back with others, and they might be in a minority in the sense that they might call their students multilingual learners, but everyone around them is calling students English language learners. And so I made a video, and I think if you Google Dr. Jim Ewing, then my video will come up, and I'll be making more videos as well. So it'll be easier to find me. But right now, if you Google math ELLs, I come up on top just in a regular search. But on YouTube, since I'm just starting out, you might have to look for me. But if not, if you can't find me, then just drop me an email, and I'd love to share you the link. So the point here is, it'll be neat if you make this change, if you haven't already, and call your students multilingual learners. But how can we advocate for MLLs and have other educators do the same? Well, one way is share this video. It's a short video, 7 minutes long. And so going on with this same thing, maybe we could visualize, maybe students can visualize themselves in the curriculum. If we have word problems about them, it's not enough just to change the names and say, well, Jim, went to the mall. How many pairs of jeans can he buy with $200, et cetera, and change Jim to Jaime. That's not enough. We want authentic access. We want access that our students can visualize themselves. For example, we have to be careful with stereotypes. If our students, can identify with Hispanic names, Latinx names like Nuria and Marcos, then we can use them, right? If not, and we're going to offend anyone, we don't want to do that. Same thing with frijoles, right? If we do that, what can be exciting is in Texas, 90% of the multilingual students speak Spanish at home as a first language, and nationally it's 75%. And so the point here is, if we use terms like Nuria tiene 7 frijoles, right? We might be positioning our Latinx students to be successful, because I might not know what a frijol is or how to pronounce that word. And so I say, hey, Juan Jose, what are frijoles? And Juan Jose is the expert. Right. And so it's just changing things a little bit. And that's so important, because when I was speaking to you in Spanish, it's not that you couldn't do the math, but it's challenging to learn content in a second language. So to make up for that, we can position our students by being culturally responsive and really making sure that they can visualize themselves in our curriculum. Here's another example. Notice panqueque. There's a visual there, so you can see the visual, but it's also a visual of panqueque. It's a visual of a pancake. You can guess that's pancake, but with jam, because in some countries they use jam instead of syrup. So once again, it's just little things that visualize. And you have the sentence stems. Those sentence stems are important, but also we've got the L1 panqueque, and maybe, or maybe not, we have to be careful with stereotypes once again. Our students can visualize themselves in our curriculum, in the problems we're doing. And so we've talked about 2 mind shifts, right? 2 mindsets that are important. The first is calling our students multilingual learners. And the second is to be culturally responsive, provide our students access, but access in an authentic way. So we're positioning our students to be successful, and they can visualize themselves in our curriculum. The third one is when we have those two, right? When we're positioning our students to be successful by calling them language experts, multilingual learners, when they can visualize themselves in our curriculum so they're really engaged, we can raise our expectations for our students. We want to challenge our students mathematically. We want to advance our students mathematically, or whatever subject you teach. And so it's good to engage our students in productive struggle, right? Whereas an exercise I gave you, perhaps I didn't advance you. And so I need to do better on that. I need to have high expectations for you. And I want you to struggle. Struggle is a good thing. When we struggle, we learn concepts deeply, but it should be productive. And so how can we do that? Well, when we boost relationships, then our students feel safe and they're willing to take a risk, and they're willing to go that extra mile for us. So it's important to have high expectations. But if we call our students ELLs, if we have that mentality that we're just focusing on our students' weaknesses, but because by definition, our students, our English language learners, they're not good at that, because that's why they're called, that's what they're learning. And so if we change that and consider them as language experts, then it makes sense to have high expectations in math as well. And so what does that look like? Let's consider, how can we position our MLLs? How can we position our multilingual learners? Well, just to review, we can position our multilingual learners by calling them multilingual learners, by having authentic access that, using those visuals and sentence stems, but when we do that, make sure it's about them, and our multilingual learners can visualize themselves and have high access, have a high standards for our students, high expectations. And so what do you think of this? Notice that this is not an easy problem. Look at all the language there's there. But yet we have our visual. And this is based on a book that I wrote. It's called Juan Jose, You Are Especial. Valentina Gonzalez, she actually endorsed it. And the point is, this is, as I said, this is not going to be the case for all multilingual learners. This is a story about one multilingual learner that I know. His name is, I named him Juan Jose. So let's check this out. Juan Jose is at a quinceañera party, and that's true. The person I'm writing about used to go to quinceañera parties like all the time, almost every weekend. He dances. Notice we provide access by using the present tense for blank minutes. Okay, and let's think about this, right? If I'm Jim and I've never been to a quinceañera party, who is the expert? Juan Jose. So the teacher is positioning Juan Jose to be successful. And so I have to ask, hey, Juan Jose, how long do you dance at the quinceañera party? And then Juan Jose feels like an expert because he is, and we're focusing on that asset. So we say, be be careful, asset-minded all the time. But, what does that mean in mathematics? What does that mean in science? What does that mean in social studies? Well, this is what we can do. This is an example of positioning our students to be successful. Juan Jose is the expert. Hey, Juan Jose, what's an enchilada verde? Right? Because Juan Jose, he eats pizza because he was born here in the United States, but his favorite food is enchiladas verdes. And then he dances for more minutes. And then notice the last word. How long does Juan Jose dance in total? Does it seem a little bit weird? Typically the word would be all together. But why do you think we use the word total? Because it's a cognate, right? And so we're providing access. And so this is just an example. If we teach math like this, it's not positioning our students, any of our students, to be successful. This does not work, and it's especially not effective for our multilingual learners. Let's teach math like this. Challenge our students, positioning our students to be successful by calling our students multilingual learners, by providing them access, but access that's authentic, that they can visualize themselves in the work, and high expectations. This is not easy. This is rigorous. It's rigorous both mathematically, and it's rigorous linguistically, and that's a good thing. So thank you so much. Please follow me on YouTube. As I said, if you Google Dr. Jim Ewing, and if you'd like to know more, then contact me at ewingjs@sfasu.edu. Thank you so much for what you do. Have a great day.